Hey.
Ooh, there he is. There's my guy. Oh, look at you. Bro, that painting is nice.
Dude, don't you have a painting of yourself in your office?
No, but I do have, you can't see
it.
because it has glare on it. Bob Sargent with the 49ers, who was, I've known him since KBR days. He sent me, is nice enough to send me a Tolbert 28 jersey signifying the years that I was at KBR. So I have a jersey,
Dude,
but
that's
no,
legit.
no, yours, man, the light's gonna fall. No, but yours is legit. You got that. I mean, like, I don't have one of me like you do of you. And then I can't, bro, cowboy hat? Are you serious?
Me, dude. I live in Texas.
I know, but come on,
I'm even trying to grow Fu Manchu like you. You're my hero.
Getting there.
Yeah, it's something. My wife had that done for me though, because I get on a Zoom call and it's like, oh, what's that picture in the background? What? You mean you don't have a painting of yourself?
That's nice. No, that's nice though. For those that don't know, this is Brent Jones. Brent, we've been doing this 20 years.
Yep.
On KMBR, like once a year or once a week, we used to do it. And Brent has won a number of Super Bowls and Pro Bowls and All Pros. And I think we decided. I say he's tight end 1B in 49er history. I don't know how he'd rank himself, but him and George Kittle. But you've had incredible success playing, incredible success off the field when you got done playing football. And now for some reason you decided to move to Texas. I don't know. Did it have anything to do with taxes?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit.
How you been? I miss talking to you, man.
Dude, we talked a little bit, but we haven't officially talked on the air, and this is awesome. I'm psyched for you. I'm psyched to be on. This is going to be a blast for you.
No, it's you're the inaugural guest.
Come on, seriously?
You're the first guest that we've had on the show. Of course, I had to have one of the regulars.
Well, you had to have a regular.
So yes. And guess what? I'm going to be calling you frequently too, especially during the football season.
Can I swear?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Please.
Hell yeah.
Try it on.
Huh? Hell yeah. That's my bet. I don't want to go nuts.
Are you serious? I told you, yes, you can swear, and you said, hell yeah? What?
I just want to make you laugh.
Okay, look, let's try it one more time. 1, 2, 3. Fuck.
Jeez. Yo, dude, I'm not.
1, 2, 3.
That's bullshit, Tom. Are you kidding me? We drafted Trey Lance. That's maybe the worst pick. It's not the worst pick. It's absolutely the worst NFL pick in my lifetime. There.
Come on. The worst?
The worst.
Wow, worse than Jamarcus Russell?
The worst.
Well, I guess because you actually had to give up 3 picks to go up there and get him.
Or
worst. 2. You got one. Yeah, that was
the only saving grace is we got Jerry Jones to give us a 4th rounder.
Exactly. And now he's probably going to let him go
I think he is.
This year. Okay, so I was talking about, before he came out, I was talking about Purdy. And I want to get into a lot of NFL stuff with you. But let's talk about Purdy, because everybody wants to know, Purdy going to sign? What's Purdy worth? And I was saying, look, you found a quarterback. I don't want to say they got lucky. Let's just say fortunate, because after the Trey Lance situation, you get Purdy last pick in the draft, and this guy has gotten you to a Super Bowl. Like, he's proven, and stats say this guy is a really good quarterback, a quarterback that you're going to need to pay to keep. Why do people and not the fans will have anything to do with it, but why do people say, yeah, I'd like him, but I don't know how much I want to give the man what the market bears. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and you need a quarterback to win a Super Bowl. What 49ers are going to keep him. They've said as much, but what are your thoughts on him? Because I remember we talked earlier, Brent, maybe when he was maybe 10 games into his career, we talked about comparing him to Joe Montana a little bit. And we always made the distinction. Look, we're not saying he's Joe Montana, but there are some certain similarities to his game. What do you think of him a couple years in? Is he a guy you just pay the money and say, hey, we got our guy?
You know what, Tom? I absolutely believe that. And the reason why is it's so hard to find a guy. I mean, you look at teams, and even guys that they think are going to be good sometimes just lose it. And so with Brock Purdy, I think some weeks you get QB 3 or 4 in all the NFL, and some weeks maybe you get QB 10 or 11. But you're not getting QB 17, 18, or 19 or 27. And so when you have a guy that slides that scale, and let's face it, he's dealt with some issues relative to injuries at the skill positions, and he's hung in there. It wasn't perfect, but man, you cannot let a guy like that go because it's so hard to find a guy, i.e., give up 3 first rounders for Trey Lance. It's just hard. And some guys come out of college and they surprise on the upside, and a lot of guys surprise on the downside. And for whatever reason, Brock Purdy was still there. We took him. He played at Iowa State and had multiple reps, which really matters. And it's about seeing the defenses. It's about processing quickly, and he gets the ball out of his hand. Is he perfect? No. But has he had a great offensive line? No. And so I 100% believe, and whether he gets 52 million or 58, it's not our money. I believe the Yorks are going to pay him. I think the 49ers understand it. I think they're on the same page as us. And it's easy to sit back and be a naysayer. Oh, he hasn't done this or he hasn't done that. You look around the league and you say, after quarterback number 10 or 11, you wouldn't want anybody else.
Yeah. Well, let me add, because I said Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. Those are the only 4 quarterbacks you would absolutely take ahead of Brock Purdy. Like, no questions asked. Yes. The rest, you can argue if you want to, like Herbert, Hurts, Goff, Love. If you want to throw Lawrence in there, I would. But I would feel very comfortable having Brock ahead of all those guys. I really would. Stafford's kind of the weird one because Stafford's still really good, but he's older, so I didn't really include him.
Yeah. But
there's only, put it this way, the only way I can put it is there's only 4 quarterbacks in the game that absolutely I would take ahead of Brock Purdy. The rest, I would probably take Brock, but it's up for discussion. Maybe about 6 or 7 guys. How do you look at it?
I agree completely, and I wouldn't put Lawrence there. I've just been thinking about him and just saying, you know what, he hasn't really done it yet.
Yeah.
The perception is that he's there, but I watched him in too many games last year where he wasn't that guy. Gosh, you kind of look around. Goff obviously has some great skill position guys too, but he's prone to throw a pick in a big situation and still hasn't, won the big one per se. And so it's always up for debate, and I think that's great. But I just think that the 49ers, believe it or not, still have a window. And it's eventually going to close, and they're going to eventually have to pay the piper for being a team that goes aggressively after players. I mean, let's face it, they've been one of those teams, and eventually it's the talent level is going to dissipate because of the cap. And maybe that's 2 years from now, maybe it's 3 or 4, but you've got to take your shot, and you can't restart the whole thing over with a new quarterback. There's just no way. A guy that doesn't know the system, a guy that hasn't been around, a guy that doesn't have the experience. If you're talking guys coming out of college, free agent, my view in free agency is you're never getting what you think you're getting in a quarterback. We've seen Aaron Rodgers. We saw Kirk Cousins last year. I mean, it's just you're just not getting it. You're getting maybe the old guy that used to be good, but there's hair on all of those deals for sure if you're getting them. And I just don't think you would take a 37-year-old guy instead of a 26-year-old guy that's had some great experience and has been operating at a much higher level than most.
What are the top 4 positions? Let's throw quarterback out of there because quarterback is obviously number 1. But we look at the Niners right now, and Trent Williams getting a little bit older. The defensive line hasn't been quite as good. Ayuk got hurt last year, and so did McCaffrey, all that. But what are your top 4 positions? Like going into this draft or free agency, take the quarterback out. Give me the next 3. Like, you don't know who they're going to be per se, but I need to fill this position this position and this position. Like those are the critical positions to fill on a football team.
Great. I've never said this in my life, but we need an interior defensive lineman. We were giving up too much. I don't like that gets me so excited.
That hurt, didn't it? That hurt.
Hey, we drafted a guy. Nobody's ever heard of him and nobody's ever seen him play, but dang it, we're excited. Take that. But we do need that. And it was very apparent last year, short yardage situations. Fred Warner was getting linemen on him almost immediately because our interior defensive linemen were getting blown up. And so that is one thing that we have to do for sure. And whether that's a high-end guy, in the first or second round, or filling in with a couple guys in the third or fourth, but we need guys that can play and can be stout and keep linemen off our linebackers. That's number one.
Offensive line.
Number two is offensive line, and it's not sexy, but we're gonna, and you know what? I think you can get guys in third, fourth, fifth round that can play, that can come in and make a difference. Maybe a free agent guy that's not as big of a name that can hold the line and give us some decent pass protection and move some guys in the run game. I think that's an area of free agency where you can capitalize and make some moves versus the big sexy wide receivers or defensive backs or running backs. So those two areas immediately. I think our second linebacker beside Fred Warner, I'd love to sign Dre Greenlaw. We need another guy that can go sideline to sideline and keep the focus off Fred. Let him, run the field as well. And so with one linebacker that can play, it makes it tough because you can double up on that guy or do things to get him out of position. We saw that last year with the quitter Devondre.
Have you ever seen such a thing?
Nope, never have. Now I heard.
I'm good.
The other day, he was mad. He had all these reasons. He was popping off on social media, bro. Go away. If no one's talking about you, that's like the best thing you can have.
Exactly. Hey, you're in. No, I'm good.
We got linebacker. Shockingly, I'm going to say something. I would love another tight end. George still has gas left in the tank, and he's a great player. But it would be great to have a second tight end, much like the Chiefs had, that can get out, get in the routes.
They got like 5 tight ends.
Man, yes.
They got these 6'4" white dudes running around the field and just catching balls. You're like, who's that? Who's Watson? Who's Gray? Who's that? Who's that? How many tight ends do you have, Reed?
Well, they had 0 wide receivers, so they had to have 5 tight ends.
So let me ask you this then, because and you watch a little bit of college football, the Tyler Warren kid for Penn State, incredible. I mean, that game he had against USC this year, I was like, I think I might have bet USC in that game. I'm like, could somebody just guard this guy? They're throwing it to him every single time. Like literally, just put somebody on this guy. I think he had like 16 or 17 catches, which was insane.
Outrageous, yes.
But he can throw it. He lines up in the backfield. He runs it. And I just love that because it shows me he's a football player. He's versatile. He can think the game and all that. Is 11, I think they dropped 11. Is that too high? Do you need to go defensive or offensive line? Because your good friend and my good friend, Bergie, we were talking and we both said, you know what? If every single first round in the NFL draft, you took a defensive lineman or offensive lineman, I'd be okay with that because that's where the game is won. That being said, I think Warren and Kittle would be incredible together. Is that a luxury pick? Can you do that? Is it too risky to go instead of going defensive, offensive line? Because I think the Warren Kittle thing would be insane.
I agree with you. And the funny thing is, going away from my lineman picks, we need them now. That one is a little tantalizing for me. What I would say is it's not risky if you've signed a free agent offensive lineman and a defensive lineman, and not just a body, someone that can actually play and maybe not be all pro, but decent. Then you can take that swing. I think if you got at least one of those positions covered, and then you've got some guys targeted in rounds 2, 3, 4, because this guy from Penn State, Warren, could be generational. and he can be anywhere and do anything. And so it creates a real problem for teams with a second tight end, because you've already got your receivers, you got your running back, and you've got Kittle. And so who's even accounting for the second tight end, right? And you don't say, hey, whatever you do, we got to take the second tight end away. So it's a great mismatch opportunity, I think. And it'd be great to have somebody that can do some damage. And that's why you saw, man, I felt like Gray from the Chiefs every time I watched a game down the stretch was catching more passes than Kelsey.
Why is it? Now, I think I know the answer to this, but I want to get your read on it. Why is it that fans still think maybe the Niners should get rid of Kyle Shanahan? Like, I don't want to give you all the reasons, because the Warrior fans want to get rid of Steve Kerr occasionally too, because he doesn't play young players, or he doesn't. I mean, he just won 4 championships, so you make sure you get rid of that guy. But Kyle Shanahan, like literally every football guy you talk to, every analyst you talk to is like, this guy's incredible. This guy calls incredible plays. The team seems to love him, and I'm like, why would you get rid of one of the top coaches? But I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because they found this guy. Brought him in. Him and Lynch have done great together. They haven't won the biggest one. They won some big ones. I mean, I contend that any playoff game you win's a big one. It's just not the biggest one, and he's 0-2 in that game. But I don't. I mean, I'm sure you're a Shanahan guy, and you're like, of course. Why in the world would you get rid of this guy?
It is frustrating to hear, I think, and my guess is he doesn't listen to it that much, but everybody else
at all
certainly hears it, and it gets frustrating, and I understand it. Let's face it, we're a very impatient group of sports fans nowadays.
Yes.
Like, everybody expects immediate satisfaction and everybody's team should be winning the Super Bowl, and if it's not, we've got to blame somebody, right? So it usually goes to the quarterback or the head coach. It goes to one or the other, typically, sometimes the owner. But it's hard because he does so many great things. And he puts guys in position to succeed, to be open. And the other thing is that people don't account for is the 49ers have one hell of a locker room. And they have had that since he's been there. It wasn't always like that. But think about that. That's a serious intangible, I'd say, in today's game, because there's so many guys that are making so much money that selfishness starts to show up. There's not camaraderie. Guys are kind of on their own program. And for the most part, the 49ers locker room is very tight. And so that is a huge intangible when you got everybody healthy and playing well. But just managing personalities and people, guys like Kyle. And I don't know that the average fan that's saying, we got to get rid of him, understands that. And not every coach. And in fact, there are a lot of coaches that come in that can't handle managing a locker room.
So let's talk about this year, and I want to get to some broad NFL questions too, but this is what I said about last year's Niner team. I said, and I think at the end of the year, Brent, they were spiritually beaten, mentally beaten, physically beaten. They were just toast, and I think that was an accumulation of not just that year, but previous years going so far in the playoffs. And it was a goofy start to the year. Ayuk, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, and then other injuries. It's just a mess. It never seemed to get on track last year. And I think finishing last does them a favor, because now they get a last place schedule. And I know it's only 2-3 games, and people are like, well, it's only 2-3 games. I'm like, well, yeah, there's only 17 games in a season, right? If this was an NBA schedule, that'd be 10 games. That's pretty significant, 10 games. So you get to play 2 fourth place teams, and everyone gets an extra month and a half to kind of get their body right. I think they're going to be super motivated next year. And while we said last year may have been like the last dance type deal, I think this year is kind of it. Like, I think you're refreshed, your 4th place schedule. You get a high draft pick, and you're going to get high draft picks in every subsequent round. Like, to me, this is the year to get it done because of all those factors I laid out. How do you see it?
I think it's a great call. it just felt miserable going through it last year. And when you were describing how the 49ers were at the end of the season, I was thinking you were describing me. I mean, I was physically, emotionally, I was spent. Like
You're toast.
I didn't want to talk about it. It's like, this is so frustrating. This is, but momentum is a real thing, and negative momentum obviously is a real thing. And you mentioned the three things that happened at first, and we couldn't have anybody stop the run. Then teams were game planning Fred Warner, and there was nobody else on defense. And Bosa was getting double teamed because nobody else was providing rush, and injuries every week, and pass protection, and we lost Ayuk, and then Debo decided to have an attitude instead of just going and playing and working on getting separation and catching the ball. It's tough to get a ball in the guy's hands when he can't catch. And so it just spiraled.
That's a good point, by the way. That's a very salient point.
It is
when you're gonna ask for the ball, make sure you can catch it.
Yes, please do. Don't ask and drop. But it was just one of those things where it was like inertia. All of a sudden, man, we couldn't pull it back. But I do think you're right, and I do really believe that this year is going to be instrumental. And they've set themselves up, like you said, they've got more rest. 6-11 felt horrible, but it's going to give you that much better of a draft pick in each round. I think this year's draft, they're going to have to nail it. And of course, you don't know if you do till sometimes it's a year or two, but I think we're going to have to grab a couple starters out of this year's draft. And sometimes when you're a good team, you say, hey, we got to have guys that we can develop into starters. But this year, I think we got to grab 2 or 3 guys that we can plug in and play right now at a fairly high level. So I believe it's setting up potentially great for him. I'm dying to know how McCaffrey is. I mean, that's going to be a big influencer one way or another. Ayuk's going to come back. It's going to be tough for him to be a number one, in my opinion. Will he still be solid? Yes, I think so. But hopefully he's worked hard on his rehab and got his attitude on right. And so I think we're going to have some early season success and get on a little bit of a roll. We don't want that malaise of last year and last year's start to hang over this year, but we got a lot of time ahead of us.
Yeah. I think I'm going to bet the 49ers to win the Super Bowl next year.
That's not a bad bet at all.
Yeah, that's 50. I had him I think I told you, didn't I, that I had him at 45-1 the first Super Bowl they went in. They went to under Kyle. 45-1. I bet the Niners 10-point lead. Clank.
Man, I wouldn't want to have been anywhere near you.
No, I was actually over at Bergie's house watching that game. I was like, I think I punched Bergie in the back of the head.
I
so mad.
Sure would have. I'm just glad his TV survived.
I'm never gonna have that chance again.
You know what?
But no, I think it sets up well for them. Well, it's funny because everybody's like, "Oh, the Eagles are young. Eagles are this." I go, you don't take a team that just won a Super Bowl and put them to sleep for 3 or 4 months and then start them at the beginning. Everything changes. Like, things change. The team is never the same. You've won enough Super Bowls, you know that. I mean, it's not. To think you're getting the same team is ludicrous.
It is ludicrous, and there's so many things that happen. And some guys have a chip on their shoulder. Some guys are fat and happy. Some guys got the new contract. Some guys didn't, and it evolves every year. And somebody's always distracted some way, shape, or form, and you don't have that same drive and desire for whatever reason. There's a few new faces, and it just never works exactly the same way. Situations are different. There could be nagging injuries or real serious injuries, and you just don't know what you're going to get. And so that's why you take shots when you have the opportunity. And if you think about it, Tom, in all realistic measures, there's probably 6, 7 teams that have a chance to win the Super Bowl next year. It'd be tough, to argue that many more have a real legitimate chance unless we see somebody, come from nowhere. But it's usually coming from that basket of teams that most people can identify at the beginning of the season.
All right, let me ask you a couple just NFL questions. Explain to me how a quarterback can win MVP and a different quarterback can win first team All-Pro. How is that possible?
I guess you got to check who's voting. It's become I kind of feel like sometimes
quite a quandary, isn't it?
It was. The narrative gets set one way or another, probably by week 10. It's interesting because you think about it. The NBA and Major League Baseball and hockey, their all-stars are all picked mid-season, right? So it's really how you start. It's your first half of the season. Now, I would argue that there's some players in the NFL that are all-stars that are all pro in the first 8 games, but man, they can fade in the next. And sometimes it feels like that narrative is starting to be set week 9 or 10 about who's going to be this, that, or the other thing. And sometimes those things hold on, and sometimes they go by the wayside. It is interesting. And as a fan, unless it's my guy and my team, I don't really care. Like, it is what it is. But
it's just amazing to me, right? That Josh Allen's MVP, Lamar Jackson's first team All-Pro. I'm like, no, wait a minute. Almost by definition, if you're a quarterback and you're the MVP, then you have to be first team.
You would think.
All-Pro. Here's what I think happened. I think they didn't want to do co-MVPs. So what they did was, look, Josh hasn't won an MVP. Lamar's won 2. Let's give Josh the MVP, but Lamar deserves something because he had an incredible year. You could easily make the case Lamar Jackson should have been the MVP this year. You could go back and forth like, okay, Lamar had Derrick Henry. Josh Allen maybe had to carry a little bit more of the load, but then you look at the stats and they all favor Lamar for the most part. So I get it to where you're like, God, this is a tough one. But it just seemed weird to me that they just split the baby basically and said, like, okay, you haven't won once. We'll give you this, but you deserve some recognition. So we'll just give you this. And I'm with you. I really don't care that much. I just found it kind of entertaining that we have a quarterback that wins MVP and isn't even first team All-Pro.
It's crazy. And the weird thing is Lamar statistically had the best season, right? I think that we all know that. But last year he was probably 7th or 8th statistically, and he won it. Like I think Brock Purdy had more touchdown passes and more big plays and higher QBR and all those other things, except maybe he didn't have all the running touchdowns. But it wasn't as obvious. I just from an average fan's perspective, it's tough unless you watch the game, because just looking at hard numbers, unless you're blowing somebody out, unless you've got 20 more touchdown passes, it starts to become hard to compare. You just don't, like you said, you don't see that with the quarterback position. Linemen or tight ends or whatever, you see that all the time. Hey, we'll take this guy this, and not MVP, but this guy's first team All-Pro, this guy, but he didn't go to the Pro Bowl, or usually that doesn't happen, but there's always discrepancies. And believe it or not, everybody has their favorites, even journalists. And so
of course,
I'm not going to vote for that guy, or I want to definitely make sure this guy gets in. And I don't know, everybody has a little bias some way, shape, or form.
Okay, let me ask you, because you mentioned Pro Bowls, and we were talking about the NBA All-Star Game and how to fix it and make it watchable again. And I don't think that format was it. But basically, it's like, okay, the players have to want to play. They have to try. There's your fix. Anything else, I said, is rearranging chairs on the Hindenburg. Of course, somebody corrected me and goes, Tom, it's Titanic. I'm like, I know, okay. Just
were there chairs on the Hindenburg?
I'm sure there were. You got to sit down somewhere, don't you?
I think.
Yeah. During your day, when you went to a Pro Bowl, did guys care about it?
You know what? They did. And it's funny. It's increasingly year after year, I kind of feel like it's become less important. Like the last year that I went was 95, so it would have been 96. It was starting to be less physical, and guys were more concerned about getting hurt. I got hurt in my second one. I
Did you really?
Ankle. Oh, it was brutal. Yeah, Brett Favre. This is a great story. So during the week, it was Brett Favre's first Pro Bowl, and every wide receiver was complaining like a little biatch that Brett Favre was throwing the ball too hard. And seriously, like we'd get in a huddle and guys would be like, I don't want to get in the huddle with Favre, like during practice. So I'd sit next to him on the bus because, Mike Holmgren now was coaching the Packers and our offenses were the same. We call stuff the same. And he's like, these guys are driving me freaking crazy. And like on Friday, he said, all right, you're the only guy that stood with me all week. He goes, when I get in the game, I'm going to throw every ball to you and you're going to be the MVP. And I was like, sweet, bro. That's what I need. I need that. So Troy Aikman plays kind of 3/4 of a quarter. The youngster plays a quarter. And here comes Brett Favre. First play, wham. He throws it to me like on a square out. And I turn upfield and a guy hits me and I break my ankle. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. He said, you're going to catch 20 passes. I'm like, this is going to be the best.
Do you remember who hit you?
Yeah. Huh?
Do you remember who hit you?
No, it was more the turf in that Hawaiian Aloha Stadium.
Oh, man. Aloha means goodbye.
Yes, it did.
And that's what happened to you. Goodbye from the game. Did you ever catch a ball?
Season. Couldn't play golf, couldn't do anything. I had to rehab the whole offseason. Screws in my ankle. It was the worst.
Oh, that is brutal.
But I just love that story because Brett Favre, he was absolutely fired up that everybody was yelling at him all week. Brett Favre, don't you have any touch? And he would be firing the ball, and it would just be breaking fingers.
Did you ever catch a ball from Steve in the Pro Bowl?
I have to think about that. Good question. Yeah, I think I did. That'd have been one more than he threw to me in the Super Bowl. No, that's true. He threw me a couple in the Super Bowl.
Have to take that out with him. I mean, I know a quarterback that actually threw the ball in the Super Bowl. I don't know if you want to get into that. But,
yeah. I don't want
to. What's the most physical thing you saw happen during one of your Pro Bowls?
You know what it was? It was what I'm trying to think of the player. Somebody got jacked up on a punt return. Nobody wanted to play special teams. Like, that's the worst. Like, every single guy in the Pro Bowl, other than the kickers and the punters and the snappers, didn't play special teams. So it was like, no, you go down, and somebody ran down. I think it was Eric Metcalf got just drilled.
Oh,
it was. And I remember thinking to myself, what are we doing? We're not trying to hurt each other out here. So,
remember the highlight? I don't know if you remember it. This is after you played. Remember Sean Dawkins creamed a punter. Just absolutely beheaded him. And I
saw that highlight last year. It was brutal.
It was like, wow. I mean, that's the thing. See, football, I've always thought football probably shouldn't have a Pro Bowl just because you guys put your body on the line. But basketball, it's not like I said, I'm not asking you to play at playoff intensity, but play like you're at the park. And if you lose, you leave the court. Winner stays on, loser leaves, and you have no idea how long you're going to wait until you get back on the court. Give me that intensity. That's all I want. Not lob three, get back on defense, not a chance in hell. What are we going to do now? Like, it just, no one wants to watch that because it doesn't. Oh, here's Sean Dawkins. Oh, this is, man. Oh, no. Look out. Oh, oh my God,
man. It's just
just disturbing. Like, what
go
are you doing,
down,
Hunter?
slide. Nice cutback.
Oh,
you know what? You got to give him credit for popping up.
Yeah, I mean, get down. What are you doing?
That's outstanding.
But that, I mean, like, that would never. Well, it wouldn't happen in the Pro Bowl today because it's not a Pro Bowl; it's a flag football game.
No, it's not.
And I don't watch any of that. I'm hoping. Please tell me you don't watch any flag football.
No, not yet. I haven't got that desperate.
Very good. All right, we're gonna before we go, and again, hopefully we'll have a chance to do this. You know, I won't bug you too much, but you know, I love talking to you, and plus I get to see you, and it's a picture, the Brent Jones picture behind you, the cowboy hat. What is that? A mini Lombardi over your right shoulder?
A mini Lombardi. My wife got it for me when I retired, but I actually got some real Lombardis.
You do?
See up there?
Oh, wow!
Actually, I had a guy just asking me about them.
Dude,
so,
that is incredible. What did it take me? Take me through the wall real quick. What do we got on the wall there?
Oh,
we have to, give me a little tour, like a Brent Jones, like a museum tour
all
almost.
right. So here's something that is so significant. When I retired, my wife had a surprise retirement party for me. Jerry Rice got up, spoke, and gave me his 1,000th catch.
What?
The Hall of Fame called, and they were like, "You got to give that to us." I'm like, "Screw you guys, I'm keeping it." And there it is.
Wow,
that one's pretty
cool.
Good.
Is that?
One of my other favorite ones, and this guy.
By the way, I think you put it on the wrong shelf. It was up by the helmet.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Don't screw it up.
Get it by my baseball glove.
I don't want you to mess up your shelf on account of me.
I don't know if you can see up there. So my wife did all this stuff, but in the far right corner of your screen, wait, where is that? Can you see?
I see helmets, Cowboys, Falcons.
You see the Chargers helmet?
No, I don't see the Chargers helmet.
Wait a second, man. I'm all jacked up. I think it's right there.
Okay, yeah, no, I got it. Yeah,
that's Junior Seau's helmet from Super Bowl year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that one was pretty good. You stick around long enough, you get certain things. So I got this one about 5 years ago. It was on an auction site. I guess the Walsh family put these a lot of Bill stuff up on auction. I'm like, man, I can't have somebody else have Bill's first Super Bowl. So that one
is that what it is?
Yeah.
Wow.
So kind of wild.
That's super cool.
Got some helmets from Pro Bowls, stuff like that. Got my my old Pittsburgh my wife, before he died, ironically, because there's a Steelers helmet up there somewhere. And Chuck Noll wrote, "I'm glad I drafted you, Brent. Great career." Chuck Noll. He got it right before he died. I'm like, that's kind of cool that he kind of, because at the time I wasn't, I don't know if I was his favorite or vice versa. After I got in the car accident.
All right, let me ask you a few questions before you take off. Just a few goofy questions. Favorite cereal?
Favorite cereal?
Yep.
Oh, I had it last night. Frosted Mini Wheats.
Frosted Mini Wheats. You know, I used to eat Frosted Mini Wheats because they were low on cholesterol, or they're low on sodium, I think is what it was.
Oh, man. That's 100% the reason I love them.
Really?
No. I love them because they're frosted.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the regular Mini Wheats are garbage.
Oh man, right? That's like called shredded wheat, man. We get stuck in your throat, you could die.
Like paper. It's like just eating paper. Like it's like eating absolute paper. So you're a nighttime cereal guy too.
You know, sometimes I am. It's just it's every now and then, but I certainly was feeling it last night.
Yeah, I had a bowl a couple nights ago. A little different from the Frosted Mini Wheats. I went Cocoa Pebbles.
Oh man,
yeah, little Cocoa Pebbles.
I love the chocolatey pebbles.
Now, you gotta love the chocolatey pebbles. Favorite sport growing up?
Ooh, it was baseball. You know, it's weird. I mean, I have an on and off love affair with baseball. I loved it so much. I love the old guys, but I've lost the connection to today's game, maybe just because I haven't grown up and following the players, and it's more of a football thing for me. But
yeah,
man, I loved playing baseball, but it was, once you're not playing, and once you don't know the guys, and once you kind of, once your local team isn't as good, you kind of lose the momentum.
Who was your favorite baseball player growing up? Who was your guy?
It was Johnny Bench.
Johnny Bench.
How about
Did you ever see the baseball bunch where he held like 9 baseballs in his hand?
Absolutely. I love the baseball
Oh, it was incredible.
bunch.
Baseball
Man,
bunch is awesome.
I loved it. When I was 7 years old, my mom had a friend that was dating Johnny Bench. Now I'm 7, and my mom got me an autograph ball. So he was a rookie of the year in 70 when I was 7, and that was the ball from that year. And at that point in time, I went from only knowing 2 players, actually 3. I didn't know them, but I knew of them. Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, and Bobby Bonds. And after that, I was a Johnny Bench fan. And then I became a catcher as well. And so this sounds horrible. I love the Giants, but I love the Reds as well. And most of the time the Reds were dominating.
God, I hated the Big Red Machine. I hated him. I was a Dodger fan until I was about 13, maybe 12, 13, and then I became an Angel fan. But God, it was always the Big Red Machine that was in the way. I mean, what a great team, right? Morgan,
Rose. I ended up meeting most of those guys, which was awesome.
You?
Yes, and one of my favorite stories. This is crazy. Dude, that's so great.
There it is.
He looks so young. I met him in an airport and sat and talked to him for 15 minutes. He was a great guy.
Was he?
My Pete Rose story. I was on Pete's radio show when we were in the Super Bowl in '89, and he probably doesn't remember.
Did he ask you, do you think you can cover?
No, but we're going there just a sec. So Dana and I are in Vegas. We're in Vegas like 10 years ago, and we're walking in through the mall, and then there's a big sign that says Pete Rose sign autographs. Like he's there probably for 6 months, but yeah, Pete Rose sign autographs. So we walk into the sports collectible store, and there's a line about 30 people, and I looked at Dana and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to wait in line. She's like, no, you need to do it. She's like, you grew up the biggest Reds fan, and Pete Rose was, one of your guys. And so I go, okay. So I went and I grabbed a hat instead of you can grab jerseys, bats, whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm going to grab a hat. So I wait in line, and for a half an hour, get up to the front, and I go, Pete, he's signing, hey, what's your name? And I go, Pete, I was on your radio show back in 1989. He looks up and he goes, what's your name? And I go, Brent Jones. And he goes, are you effing kidding me? He stands up and he starts yelling. There's like 50 people in the store. You effing know who this is? This is fucking Brent Jones. Niners, 3 Super Bowls. And then he goes, I used to bet on you all the time. And I had tears in my eyes. And Dana's like in the corner, he's like, get this guy an effing jersey. Get him a bat. He's like, this one's on me. And he sat and talked to me. And he was going off for 15 minutes. And I'm sure all the people in the store and the people in line were like, holy cow. And I walked out of the store and Dana goes, that was one hell of a reception. And so
I used to bet on this effing guy all the time.
Yeah. I was like, are you kidding me?
That's so
God.
Good.
So loud. Good. So I was turning so red. I was embarrassed, and he was going off. And he wouldn't let me go. You remember that playoff game? I had the over, and
my gosh. All right, what's your favorite college memory? College, either football or non-football memory?
Oh my gosh. So I was a baseball player, and somehow, some way, I got a football scholarship. Okay. I was second string in high school, so you don't usually get a football scholarship. So I got it offered in July, where I thought I was going to go to USC to play baseball. Kind of in the last minute, fell through, and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? Am I going to go to junior college? Santa Clara offered me a football scholarship, and I'm like, man, that's kind of cool. I don't know why my high school coach, even though he didn't play me, stuck up for me. And Terry Malley, who was Pat Malley's son, told his dad I was all-league wide receiver, even though I played in 3 games. And so I go to Santa Clara, and my most vivid memory, Tom, and you will appreciate this, is I got to Santa Clara and I looked around and I was like, I just turned 18. I'm 6'3", probably $180, and I was playing with grown ass men. Like there were guys that had big beards and mustaches, guys that were twice the size as me, and I was like, man, I wonder if this football thing is such a good idea. And the second day I was there, they put us on a bus to Mare Island, and we stayed in the barracks and ate in the mess hall. And my roommate didn't show up. So I was all by myself. I didn't know anybody. And I had to practice twice a day and sleep in a military dorm and eat military food. And I wanted to quit immediately. So that was my greatest memory.
I'm glad you didn't go in a different direction, because I thought when you said you showed up, like these guys were men. When you said they had big, I thought you were going to go in a different direction. I'm glad you didn't. No. So that I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. The most bizarre locker room ritual. Like if somebody had like a superstition or something that was just kind of wild that maybe you can remember, or maybe you had one. I don't know.
No, I'll tell you who. It was George Seifert. He had one, and he will come out at a certain time, maybe exactly 2 hours before kickoff, and he'd have his shoes on, and he'd do a little lap, and he'd do exactly the same movements. He'd walk down over here, down by the training table, turn left, come around over where the DBs kind of got dressed, and he'd come up and he'd circle around this table. He had to do the circle, because if he didn't do the circle, we'd probably lose. And then he'd come up the stairs. So Harris Barton and I one time said, let's set up obstacles so he can't do his regular course. And you could, like, here he comes out. So we set up a chair with shoulder pads, or we'd put a table where he usually walked. And you could tell he was annoyed. He came out of the coach's locker room and started walking and like almost bumped into the table and was kind of annoyed. You could just tell he's looking around, kind of pissed. Then he'd kind of walk around it, and he'd get to the shoulder pads sitting on a chair, and he'd kind of slide through it and go around. And he kind of made a makeshift way to do it. And we won that game. And I was like, dang, like, that didn't fluster him. Like if he lost, he probably would have gone crazy. So the next week we're like, okay, we got to do something to him. We went in the coach's locker room. I mean, of course, this is serious stuff. And we stole his shoe, his coaching shoe. We're like, oh yeah, okay, let's see what he does.
No.
So he comes out of the locker room and he's doing his lap. He's got one shoe on and one off and one sock. And damned if he didn't walk around and do his same lap and do the stuff. And we're kind of like secretly watching. We're like, dang, that sucker. Like he's I figured he'd eventually get another shoe from the equipment guys. So I thought, okay, it's useless. Like we're not going to be able to throw him off. But the next week, since we won by like 4 touchdowns, he had 2 shoes. He came out with one shoe on and one sock, and that's how he did it until we lost. Because he was like, okay, hey, going one shoe was the difference in the game. So he was the guy that always had the ritual. He used to blow on lifesavers 3 times before.
Did he?
He'd wear the same sweater. I'm like, you wash that thing?
Oh my gosh. Real quick, I'll give you the so my buddy, I don't know if you know Bergie. Bergie's both of our good friend Craig McMillan we played with at Arizona, and Craig's from Cloverdale, coaches at Santa Rosa. He's been up there like 20 plus years coaching junior college. He was my roommate in college. I love Craig. So we went down to Mexico during spring break, and we go down there and I slept on the beach, like literally under the car. I was like in a kind of a sleeping bag under the car, sand blowing all over the place. We didn't have a place to stay. It was brutal. So the next morning, right, you get up and they have these I guess they're porta potties. They're not really porta potties like near the beach. It's just like 3-4 pieces of plywood stuck together, and then a piece of plywood in the middle of it with a hole cut in it. That's it. That's like literally
to me.
yeah, that's all it is, right? So Craig, I always kidded Craig about this. So Craig walks in, and he walks in with 2 shoes, 2 socks, shorts, shirt, stays in there 15 minutes, comes out with shirt, shorts, 2 shoes, 1 sock.
I know where that's going.
And I go, bro, where did the other sock go? Where did the other sock go? Oh God, I still remember him walking out with 1 sock. All right. Favorite TV show you're watching right now?
Ooh, so we just finished Landman.
Oh, that was good, wasn't it?
That was good. And
Billy Bob's incredible.
I'm in Texas, and I know a couple oil guys, and I'm like, is it really like that? They're like, there are a lot of parts that are just like that. So I told my buddy, I said, I want a field trip to the oil field. I want to go. Like, he's like, what? Are you serious? I'm like, yeah, no, I want to go down there and, go to the Permian Basin and go like watch it all. He's like, what's wrong with you?
How about the scene? Cool. How about the scene in the first or second episode with his daughter?
Holy cow!
Yeah, holy cow!
That daughter's out of control.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Billy Bob is like the perfect guy to play that part. Like that was a good one.
No, that's a good show. All right, last one. Last concert you went to?
Ooh, what concert? What did I go see? Now that I live in Texas, I do like some country music.
I bet you do.
We went and saw Luke Combs in Iowa last year.
I like Luke Combs.
And my wife got us like these VIP passes. It was at an IndyCar race in Iowa. And after the race, Luke Combs' concert comes on. And literally, we had these passes, and we got down and we walked right on the stage. Like I was like, he was dripping sweat on me. It was awesome. It was so much fun. He was sweating his butt off, but it was a great time. With a couple of Santa Clara football buddies and I went out there, and it was just like, man, I can't believe it was like Luke Combs came and played a concert for you, and they limited the amount of people that were there, so nobody was jamming on the stage. So I was just like, because most of the people were in the stands, but it felt like I had my own personal Luke Combs concert.
Wow. I mean, sometimes I do forget that you're filthy rich and you can do all those things.
Rich? We need.
Kidding me? You're like an oil guy. You're like,
my wife does a good job spending. We need the Doge to come out here and
Doge. Doge. What is wrong with you?
Just having some fun.
Doge. How often do you wear that cowboy hat behind you?
That one.
Yeah, go ahead and throw that thing on. I want to see what that thing looks like on you.
So I wear this one every once in a while, but my good ones are in the house. I got a black one.
That looks good. That looks good on you.
Down like this, so it's kind of close to your eyes.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if I could pull up a cowboy hat, but yeah.
Oh, you totally could. The cowboy boots are great too. You'd be.
I hate boots.
Oh, you'd be 6'10" in cowboy boots. It'd be awesome.
Well, that's what I need to be 6'10". Why would I want to do that?
I don't know. It sounds like
I don't need to be any taller. I don't need to be any taller. All right, brother. Well, I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you. I love the fact that you're able to do it and you're able to be the first guest, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do it again soon. It's so much fun talking to you, and hopefully the family, Dana, and everybody's doing well. All the grandkids doing well, I hope.
Oh, they're kicking some butt, baby.
Are they?
Yep. We got
the Purdy fan, season. Right?
Huh?
The Brock Purdy fan.
Oh, Brock Purdy. So you know who else he loves?
Who?
My gosh. what's his face from the Celtics. Now I'm blanking.
Which one? Tatum, Brown?
He loves Tatum.
Porzingis?
And so
Okay.
he's 4.5, and he probably scores 8 points a game in his basketball. Every time he shoots and scores, he runs down the court and he goes, just like Tatum. And my 7-year-old grandson, he'll bury a long shot. He's 7. Like, they're still trying to figure it out, and he'll run down the court and go like this to the.
No, not the night. Come on.
Oh, he gives them night. It's I'm like, what's wrong with these knuckleheads? But they're hilarious. So they're playing NBA 2K on the PlayStation. I got them. They know every player. They got every jersey. It's like they're hilarious. That's what keeps me going. But Tommy, thank you so much.
Yep.
It's such a pleasure to be on the first show, and I'm excited for you. So don't forget me.
No, you kidding me? At some point, you're going to go, stop calling me. That's enough. I've had enough of you. Don't call me like every week to have.
I love the comments coming up too. That's really freaking cool.
You know what's going to be great is I look at it like when I started doing this, and we've just only been doing it for a couple of days now. After I got whacked at KMBR, I was like bored. I was like, I got nothing to do. Like there's a lot more hours in the day than I thought. So, you go out and go for a walk, maybe you prepare dinner, and then you realize like there's still 2 hours until the next game. Like and it's a Wizards game. This sucks.
It's a long day.
Oh my gosh, it's a long day. So this is my way of just continuing to talk sports, and really a lot of it for me is getting a chance to talk to you, or getting a chance to talk to Steve or the other Steve, or all the guys I got a chance to talk to and kind of cultivate relationships with when I was at KMBR. Like, I feel like it's weird. I feel like all of you guys, excluding Steve Kerr, because he actually is, my best friend, and I see one of my best friends, and I see him all the time. I don't see you guys that much, but I still feel like we're really close, and we really have a great friendship, which is interesting since we hardly ever see each other, but we've talked to each other. So I wanted to that was a way for me to kind of keep that going as well.
Dude, I love it. It's going to be great. You're going to have a blast. You can go as long as you want. You can go down. It's nice to have extra time to, tell stories, because you know that you and your posse, we all have some freaking great stories that don't usually have time to get them on the air. So this is great.
What's great is like nobody says it's time to break. Nobody. If somebody were to come in here right now and say you got a break, I'd go, fuck you, is what I would say. I'd go, beat it. Get out of here. I can stay on as long as I want, and I can talk as long as I want, and I can stay up as late as I want. So I'm good to go. Well, tell Dan and the family that I said hi. Let's do this again soon, maybe around draft time, or maybe we'll get your famed Final Four picks again this year. No picking Texas Tech, although they'll be in the tournament. So tell everybody I said hi, and have a great rest of the day. And thank you so much for joining me, Brent. I really appreciate it. Love you, man.
Love you, brother. You do the same.
All right, Brent. Take it easy, man.